Hello, welcome back. It is week 110 on Out on That Line. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex. As always, Alex, how you doing this week?
I'm feeling loose. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling goofier than a pet raccoon. I am ready to dig into this album this week.
Well, I think feeling loose is a pretty accurate way to describe the Caroline Rose album, The Art of Forgetting, which is what we're going to talk about today. Now, Out on That Line alum, Caroline Rose, 2 times. So we're starting to rack these up, which lets me know that we've been doing this a while. We've really stuck with this thing. Well, before we get to that album, there was something very interesting that I saw on TikTok, and it was this gentleman, music producer, I assume, songwriter type, decided to make a hip hop song, recorded his vocals, but then what he decided to do was take an AI model of Kanye West's voice and kind of overdub the song so that he replaces his vocals with this AI Kanye West. And it sounds almost perfect. And apparently, these things, there's one of these for like every major artist. They are training them as we speak. And brother, I am a little bit worried about where we're headed here.
Well, first of all, you lost me at I saw something interesting on TikTok. But
Touche.
that's the thing is like how comfortable are we sliding into postmodernism where there truly is no ownership and it doesn't matter? Like this is going to be like the next NFTs where people just like invest themselves into something that can't be like seen or touched. Like you can't go see the Kanye that did this song in concert. You probably can't go see Kanye in concert, period. Not in good conscience. But it just has these weird implications for like, does the artist even matter anymore? Like, where do they fit into this? Like, they made this wonderful art, and now they're not needed to do it. It's fucked up. It's weird.
It is very strange. I think the only thing that can really prevent this from completely taking over the industry is the fact that the I don't know how good it is at making up its own lyrics in the style of other people. It
Mhm.
probably can do things in the same sequence and same kind of like rhyme schemes that they might use, but I think the emotions and the feeling and like the stories that are to be told, like that can't be replicated, at least not yet by an AI. So that gives me a little hope that there's going to be a reason for the artists to still exist. But like, what reason is there going to be for any record label to pay for a mid range band, that might get like, you know, a tenth of the, publication and like distribution of one of their bigger artists when they can just use AI that they pay once for just to make songs in the style of that band that, if they want to have like filler or whatever, so they can save all the money on those mid-tier bands. And the only ones that are left that are going to matter are those top tier, like groundbreaking singer songwriting, people that do the stuff themselves. It's not, you're never going to have, like pop stars, that just sing songs that other people write for them. Cause what do you need the pop star for? You don't need to tour on this stuff. It doesn't cost you anything. You just have to have somebody write the lyrics. So you just have a staff of all these people writing the songs that have been doing this anyways. But instead of having to pay a singer to do it, you just have an AI model of a singer do it now. And to me, that is a very scary thought because, like, what not everybody's going to be the top level artist, but there's a lot of room for a lot of people to make a living, at that mid level, even at the low level. If you're signed to a record label, like that means you can make some money doing what you do. They're going to promote your shows, whatever it is. But now they're not going to need to do that. They don't need to spend the effort. They don't need to spend the staff to like manage all those smaller bands. They can just make all that stuff with AI, and who's going to know the difference? Like, it's getting so good now that if you didn't watch that TikTok and see that that guy had done that and you just heard that piece of the song with Kanye's lyrics over it, there's nothing that would really tell you that it's not the real deal. And is there going to be some sort of laws like managing the ethics of this thing where they're going to have to disclose if it's an AI song? It can, it has to have a certain distribution to other artists. How are they going to manage that? My guess is they're not going to manage that at all. They're just going to allow it to happen. and they're going to rake in a lot of money because they're going to create these songs that cost them nothing to make, that they make every bit of profit from. And it's really gross. I already feel disgusted by it, but I know it's going to happen.
Well, you know where the real money is to be made in that whole model? Custom songs. So it's like if you're
Mm.
willing to pay extra, we can have Doja Cat sing you a song about all the stuff she wants to put in your butt. And that can just be like your thing. Like you tell us what you want to hear, and
Hmm.
that can be your thing. You pay the right price, and we'll have Snoop Dogg rapping a jerk chicken recipe to you. Whatever you
Hmm.
want. We can do it on demand. It's some weird like Blade Runner Philip K. Dick shit. It's also not into it. So that's an official position out on that line, anti-AI.
Yeah, and like this is just one part of AI that I am just not cool with. This is the classic, asking the people that are doing this, like, have you ever watched a movie? Have you ever seen a movie once in your life and you think this is a good idea to just let AI just go? Just, yeah, it's going to make the world better? No. It's based on humans. That's what it's supposed to mimic. And buddy, we suck. As a species, we suck. So like that's what we want to emulate. They've already shown so many biases because it just mimics the people that make it. And it's just bad news all around. Like, what happens if an artist, like, so say a record label just buys the rights to somebody's voice, somebody's vocal, like, frequencies, whatever they use to build the AI of that voice. So now they own that, and they can just do whatever they want with that voice. Is there clauses in that contract that say they can't use it for, A, B, and C? I don't know. Do they even sign a contract if that's the case, or do they just find another singer that's willing to do that without those stipulations? Because down the road, you never know what they're going to be like. Yeah, you can use this person's voice for that advertisement. And it's like, would that person want to advertise for that product, or would they want to be involved in that, whatever the situation is? It's a scary road that we're going down. And I think we're going to end up in a place where if it doesn't completely destroy the music industry, it's going to hurt it pretty significantly.
Well, you know who's the only one that can save us? T-Pain. Because you think about it, this whole he is the genesis, whether you say he's the creator of or to blame for the prevalence of auto tune,
Hmm.
he's the only one who knows how to speak these machines' languages. He's the only one that can take them down from the inside. T-Pain's the only one that can save us.
Help us, Tallahassee Payne. You're our only hope.
Your only hope. And there might be something in it for you if you help us.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very scary situation. I think there needs to be a lot more people worried about it. Maybe I just feel like I'm the canary in the coal mine right now. I feel like it's just bad news all around that this is, and it's going to go so fast too. I mean, this guy that did that Kanye video said there is like an endless list of artists that already have AI models done of their voice. I think they had some sort of program go through like Spotify and Apple Music, and everybody that had listens over a certain amount, there's AI models getting made of their voices right now. And it's hard to say, like, if you release a song with their voice and you just change the frequency a tiny bit, like, how do you copyright the sound of your voice? You can copyright your lyrics, you can copyright your chord structures, you can copyright a whole bunch of stuff about a song, but how you sound, can you copyright that? I mean, that's a really, really tough question because, okay, so say you have them like saying you record the frequencies of their voice, changing that number by one is going to technically remove them from responsibility for using that person's voice, and it's going to probably sound almost exactly the same. And it's just, to me, it's such a scary thing, such a scary thing.
Think you pull that thread and like all the havoc that you could wreak. I think about like what if you took Lady Gaga's voice and released like an anti-abortion anthem? People's heads would explode.
That's
They'd
what I
hear
mean
that.
is, like, you've already got artists selling their catalog, their music rights. Like, that's not a far step from them just selling the rights to use their voice in AI. But you know what? There's an artist that I have faith in that's going to continue to bring the human element to this whole music thing, even if she uses a lot of electronic devices to do so. And of course, I'm talking about Caroline Rose, the now two-time alum of Out on That Line podcast, and her new album, The Art of Forgetting. Now, this one was a little bit longer than some that we'd done before, but I think it was for a very good reason because I did not feel like at any point that the 51 minutes of this album took 51 minutes. Like it was just such a seamless ride through the whole thing. Um, I really just kind of admire kind of what she was able to do with this thing, because I think the previous album that we did was probably the fifth or sixth album we did on the show. I mean, it was
It
early
was
on in the
early.
show. But that one had some like singles and some like really good kind of like pop songs on it. And I felt like this one, it had that, but it also, I just think overall, as a whole experience, top to bottom, I did not get bored at all. And I think there was a lot of the music, a lot of it really same themes that includes like lyrical and musical. So there was a lot of points where you could possibly kind of get lost in this album, and kind of get lost and not in a good way. But I felt like it just always held on in those moments where it could have just like gone wrong and gotten boring. It just like held on and then added something else interesting. It just really was not very similar to anything we've done recently. I don't think. I think this was the closest thing to a full-on concept album that we've done in a little while.
And the concept was just the complete and utter meltdown of Caroline Rose. Like, this was such an incredible thing to witness on the back of Superstar because of the story that goes behind it. So, like, Superstar came out, super well regarded album. We loved it. It was a concept album as well. And it was just this kind of like cool thing that Caroline Rose was using to work out some stuff going on in her life. And then she goes on Seth Meyers and she's like ready to just peak and hit some like Phoebe Bridgers shit. And then COVID happened
Mhm.
and her career just like, I don't want to say it wrecked or stalled is probably fair, just right
Yes.
there, and remained there for quite some time. And during that time, she got dumped by someone she super cared about. So her whole worldview was thrown into chaos, and making sense of that, her process for that was making this album. It's the anti Starcrossed. It's what I thought we might get from Starcrossed.
Mhm.
It was like wildly raw and honest and sad and funny all at the same time. It's we talk about a perfect album. This comes pretty goddamn close.
Yeah, and I would absolutely agree with that. I think this to me is like what we were hoping we would get out of like Lana Del Rey, or Julian Baker. I think there was a lot of things that were really the emotion was like so heavy in this. And then she'd have those clips of her grandmother. I think it was her grandmother, right? That was leaving her
Meemaw.
voicemails about like, yeah, like, call me back. I'm just wondering where you are, wondering how you're doing. Like just those things where and I get the sense that she was, because those kept playing during the album without any sort of like response, that she was ignoring those voicemails, that she was having a tough time, like not able to call. And just like her grandma kept calling her back. And then the end of the album, I feel like where you start to get this resolution, you hear her response to that, and just her finally calling her grandma back and finally just, I feel like releasing some things, and I felt like that this whole album was a gigantic release. And there was a lot of just very critical self-reflection, I think, in this. There was a lot of, I think the thing that I find appealing about this versus something like a Taylor Swift is I feel like a Taylor Swift is very focused on the I perspective, the first person perspective. I think Caroline Rose here is a lot more concerned with the perspective of the situation, the fault that she has in it, the fault the other person might have in it, and just it seems a lot more honest to me because of that. Because I feel like the whole story is getting told rather than us just hearing one side. And I feel like that's what makes this so appealing as a whole, is that you feel like you're getting the whole experience so you can trust what she's telling you.
And it feels like you're dead. This is all coming from like dead in the center of her brain, like you're in her innermost thoughts. It's incredible how like authentic she can be about it without being totally on the nose. And the musical quality of it, again, does that beautiful thing where it's reinforcing the things that she's talking about, and neither of them is stealing from one another. It's a case of like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The way that she uses all of the instrumentation on this, these like it's like a total subversion of the shit she was doing on Superstar, where that had this like very tongue-in-cheek quality, even when it was talking about like seedier kind of stuff, like the seedier
Mhm.
side of stardom. Even when it was doing that, it did kind of have this like lightness to it that is very trademark Caroline Rose. And the thing is, she managed to like keep that in this, but show us a different side of it. So the biggest indicator of that for me was like, these are all sounds that in theory belong on an album like Superstar, but they've all been twisted and turned into these like funhouse mirror, deeply depressing, deeply profound, like utterly musically beautiful songs. It's like a wild, wild feat to pull off when you're trying to grapple with your own feelings. Like your own feelings are wrapped up in that. So to
Mhm.
be able to just like talk about it this honestly, again, I'm to make the comparison, it's kind of honesty we didn't get from Casey Musgraves. And it like kind of
Mhm.
turned me off from Casey Musgraves, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's the thing is I feel like with Starcrossed, it was well produced. You know, that's the thing. It wasn't like a terrible listen, but I think knowing what she was capable of with Same Trailer, Different Park, that was fantastic. Pageant Material was a fantastic album. Golden Hour was incredible. I mean, one of the best albums of the last decade, I would say. You know, I think that's why it was such a fall off. And that's why this album is so satisfying is because Superstar, I remember I think we were both like very positive on. I mean, that was a fantastic album. There was a lot of really, really high points on that album too. Felt like this entire album was a high point. She went from like peaks and valleys on Superstar, and not say, you know, those valleys weren't very deep, by the way. But this album as a whole, I mean, right from the start, and the thing is, it is so musically like similar throughout the whole thing. Like there's musical themes. They do like what Coheed does. You know, there's musical themes that kind of repeat themselves a couple times throughout the album. And the way that she builds on that though, that's where like it really gets special is the way everything can swell up. You know, it's that moment the first time you hear like this might sound very cheesy to people, but the Florence and the Machine, Dog Days Are Over. Like when that first
Mm.
like really pumps into that chorus is a moment the first time you hear that. And I got so many of those same moments on this album. You know, it's the kind of thing where you know it's coming, this buildup, but then it just hits you and it's just this wall of sound. It's so good. I mean, it's everything, the same reasons I love Coming Back to Life by Pink Floyd, which I think Division Bell came out like 30 years ago today, by the way, people. If you haven't gone and listened to that album, you should definitely do that. But it's gives me that same feeling. It's such a full sound, such an all-around full spectrum experience to listen to this album. The lyrics are very strong with it. The music matches that at every single point in the album. It's just it's really hard to find anything bad to say about it, honestly.
And it was just haunting and at the same time refreshing because you're seeing this different side of Caroline Rose again that is like very true to who she is, but kind of flips it into a different gear. I just like I, I loved it. It was one of those things where I was like, not down on it because I had no reason to be like, New Caroline Rose is what if it's not good? But there was this weird kind of nagging thing. I hate that this is happening to me recently where like an artist will come out with something, Miley Cyrus, Caroline Rose, and I'm like, God, I hope it doesn't suck. Like all I need for it to do is not suck. But this not only didn't suck, it delivered. And I just think it's like a little opera. It's got like that sense of scale to it where at the same time, you feel like you're in her bedroom, in her thoughts while she's experiencing all of this. And then at the same time, you think you're at the opera. It's just this
Mhm.
huge, sprawling, like the emotions cannot be contained. And the music kind of takes on that quality where there's like kind of a one of those like washed out inner monologue sounds, like the way that the like electronic instruments are used. It kind
Mhm.
of gives you this like weird detachment. It was just these great tricks employed throughout. Again, someone that did that really well was Sloppy Jane. Um,
Mhm.
it's just like it's using every single part of the production to your advantage, just something she always did so well. But again, adding this super personal stamp to it is like it's sort of a cosmic gumbo.
Oh my god, I hate your guts.
Way to undermine my entire point. Good job, me.
It really, I mean, I just the closing song, I feel like we need to give, like, some specific shout outs here. The closing song, the way it just I think it's, like, 6.5 or 7 minutes long. I mean, it's a long one, and the way it just moves through, like, it's its own musical. You know, it starts out and you're like, "Okay, this is gonna be a very retrospective, very kinda, like, look back on things, very calm sort of perspective on everything," and it just again, where you thought you were done with this, like, incredible up and down kind of emotional swelling both in the music and the lyrics throughout this whole album, they give it to you one more time here. And it's just so good to me that this song is that long, but at no point feels like it's that long. Like you listen to it and every part of it has its place. There's a reason that it's so long is because everything that was necessary for this song is in there. And it really just there's so many layers, there's so much music. You could somebody's going to make the argument on this album that it's overproduced, that there's too much going on. And I'm going to say ahead of time that that person is an idiot, whoever it is, because when it's this well put together, you can have a hat on a hat, as we love to say, because when it sounds this good, you're never going to feel like it's too much.
Yeah, and you're never gonna see a Frank Zappa guy complaining about something being overproduced.
There
Got
he
him.
is.
Yeah, I really loved this a lot. It kind of sent me through a lot of different emotions and was at the same time pleasing to listen to because sometimes an album pulls off one or the other. It's very musically interesting and doesn't really have a thought, or it's very, very like thematically profound and the music can't really match up to it. But this is like the perfect meshing. And I think for me, the song Doldrums is what like crystallized it for me. That line, there comes a time in every life where you have to wonder what life is all about and or what it means to be alive. You have to wonder what it
Hmm.
means to be alive. It's just like, ugh, it's such a gut wrenching, and the album is full of that kind of stuff. And the voicemails from Mima fill you with dread because my mind instantly was like, oh, Mima's gonna die and she's not gonna talk to Mima. And that's one of the other elements on this album. I found nothing to support that, so I think Mima is fine, hopefully. But those voicemails like filled me with this sense of dread. And it's just like you can't fabricate that. You can't fake that. She put so much of herself into
Hmm.
this album, and it's incredible.
And I think I saw you post this song on Instagram as well. Everywhere I go, I bring the rain.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Brother, let me tell you, that might be the best song on the album. I mean, it's just that good. I just don't know how, and it's so like you click through and read through the lyrics and everything, it is very lyrically dense. Like there's a lot there. There's so much production and there's so much production on the lyrics as well. I mean, it's just such a all out effort that, you know, if she wasn't completely and totally consumed mentally by this to make this album, I don't know what kind of superhuman person we're dealing with if she wasn't completely overwhelmed with what it took to make this album, because this is I think you nailed it. It's perfect. I think right now, so far for me, this is the album of the year. I don't think there's been some strong competition. I mean, there's some really good albums we talked about this year, and I don't think any one of them touched this.
I think for me, it's neck and neck with SOS. SOS, I've gone back to a lot. It will not leave my
Yes.
mind.
Yeah, that one was incredible too.
So Caroline Rose sitting in the top of the poll with SZA, Not too shabby for either of them. For me, this is a clear and present buy it.
Oh, 100% buy it. I think I'm getting this on vinyl for sure.
Absolutely. I already looked for it today. It's happening. It's happening,
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. I'm looking forward because I'll bet you that every single Austin record store is going to have a stack of those babies. So I'm going to go and get my
Hell
hot little
yeah.
paws on that.
It's pretty cool that she's from Vermont and now she lives in Austin.
Yeah. It's the perfect out on that line symbiosis.
Exactly. It's just like what we did. It's
Yeah.
stuck with you. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, good for me. I'm staring right down the barrel of a summer that's not going to get below 100 degrees. Good for me.
Shuck 'em up, baby. Shuck 'em up. Uh,
Well, what do you say we do a little housekeeping here and just remind the folks what we're going to need from them. So what we're going to need, folks, is we're going to need you to subscribe down below if you haven't already. Make sure you turn on those notifications. If you want to see us in video format, this is the place to be, right here on youtube.com/C/out on that line. Was that
eh,
correct?
perfect dismount. 10
That
from the
was
Russian judge.
that felt good. It only took me like 3 months to get brave enough to try that one on my own.
Well, God bless you. You stuck it.
We did it, folks. But make sure you subscribe down below. Alex, do you want to tell the folks maybe what we might have coming up here pretty soon?
Well, we might have perhaps some people that are making their way into the Two Timers Club again, possibly. We've got reaction videos coming out our ears. You can go back and see singles and maybe beg us to bring that back. You won't. You can suggest albums you want us to do on this show because we're ready to load up. We're locked in. We've had a lot of like fits and starts this season, but we're locked in now. We're in the
Yes.
pocket. We're in a groove. We're ready. We're firing on all cylinders. And you'll know this if you go to youtube.com/C/out on that line. That's the only place. So go today. I implore you, please.
The offer is not going to last forever, folks. You better get it done. Until next time.